Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Today's video is a product of the monthly patron vote, which you can check out in the description below, hint hint, and the winner is, well, not one I expected to see here, honestly. Like, this went head to head against Phantasm Spiral, and that's a meme deck, but when duty calls, I answer. So, without further ado, premiering in the August 2015 core set, Clash of Rebellions, Igknights were the first archetype revealed as part of the Draco Slayer storyline, and as part of the second year of Pendulum, represented the next step forward for the mechanic. And there wasn't a better way to show that off than with a bunch of normal monsters that blow themselves up. Which I say with the same dejected energy as when I saw that the new Magispector cards did a number on my Draco Slayer lore theories, but honestly showed exactly what Pendulums were capable of before the mechanic went over the top. And since we're going to be covering those mischievous Magispector monsters next month thanks to new support, it's pretty fortuitous that we'll be covering the only other member of the Part 1 Draco Slayer lore archetypes we haven't already covered. So let's slide down the list to see who we've got, hammer home some of the finer details, then see if we can lock in any fiery friends. It's time to light the spark with Igknights Explained. So what's the deal with Igknights? Well, they're a series of fire warrior monsters, most of whom are also normal pendulums, with a focus on destroying your own cards for value. See, the deck's boss monsters don't really fit into our pendulum scales, instead opting to blow up your Igknight cards to get them out of your hand, which works pretty well with pendulums because any monsters that get smashed here can just be pendulum summoned back during a following turn, unless you have a pendulum summon on standby that you can use now. So it all boils down to having a lot of self-destruction based effects that we get for free as long as we have functioning scales. Though with the changeover to Master Rule 4, that's been a little tough to compensate for. Let's start with the normal monsters who make up about half the theme. Each one is either a scale 2 or 7, giving us access to levels 3, 4, 5, and 6 monsters to pendulum summon, and they don't even come with any restrictions. They also all share the same pendulum effect. If an Igknight card is in your other pendulum zone, you can destroy both cards in your pendulum zones, and if you do, add a fire warrior monster from your deck or grave to your hand. So the idea is that your opening hand has a fist full of Igknight cards, you scale them, destroy them, getting you another Igknight which represents one half of a complete scale. So you would keep doing this until you were down to your last pair. Then, since all those destroyed Igknights are now sitting pretty in the face-up extra deck, you could swing them all into action, and then you'd have all the Xyzs and tribute fodder you could ever ask for. As for the monsters, we have 2 of each level that we can pendulum summon. Squire and Crusader are both level 3, Paladin and Templar are level 4, Margrave and Cavalier are 5, with Veteran and Gallant rounding things up as level 6. Their stats aren't too important, as even our higher leveled ones can be a tad underwhelming. They really do just act as mediums through which other cards strut their stuff. However, this does mean we get a ton of flavor text, and in combination with the art, we can deduce that, despite their very serious outward appearance, are a bunch of doofuses who trip over each other trying to do just about anything, suffering and causing friendly fire, blowing up their equipment, and all kinds of stuff along the way. Now, recently, we did actually get a Pendulum Effect Igknight monster, though it is also a Draco Slayer, and is only part of the theme due to the "this card is always treated as" clause, which some of you might be upset with, but it actually makes a ton of sense in lore. Ignis Phoenix, the Draco Slayer, is a level 4 monster with 1700 attack and 1900 defense with a scale of 7. As a pendulum spell, during your main phase, you can shuffle a face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck into the deck, then add a non-pendulum Draco Slayer or Igknight monster from your deck to your hand. As a monster, if this card on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can special summon a Draco Slayer or Igknight monster from your deck, except a copy of this card, and if you do, it's treated as a tuner. The pendulum effect is a little rough, our non-pendulum pickings from both of those themes are a little lacking, but its monster effect is fantastic. It triggers when being blown up by your other Igknights, summons any Draco Slayer or Igknight monster from your deck, and allows you to access the Synchro pool, which is something you wouldn't be able to do without accessing outside help. So you could either summon a lowered level one to help with that, or get one of your Igknight boss monsters into rotation for free. The typing here seems a little off though. I mean, if it is an Ignis, why isn't it a Cybers type? Igknight Lancer is a level 7 monster with 2600 attack and 1800 defense, and while this card is in your hand, you can target 3 Igknight cards you control, destroy them, and if you do, special summon this card. Once per turn, you can target one other Igknight monster you control and return it to the hand, and if you do, place a spell or trap card your opponent controls on the bottom of their deck. And bouncing an Igknight to your hand isn't much of an issue, since you can just pendulum summon it right back. In fact, that might even be more beneficial to you now under Master Rule 4, as pendulum summoning from the hand has no restrictions. It even has a cousin, Igknight Champion, a level 8 monster with 2800 attack and 2300 defense, and has the same summoning effect as Lancer. And once per turn, you can target one other Igknight monster you control and return it to the hand, and if you do, place a monster your opponent controls on the bottom of their deck. Both of these are pretty savage removal. You don't trigger any graveyard effects, and your opponent will hardly ever get a chance to redraw that card lest their deck be shuffled. The problem is that, even with a recursive series of monsters, blowing up 3 is a bit of an investment. You'd almost rather just tribute summon them and save yourself the hassle. And while the removal is brutal, it is slow and situational. If your opponent isn't heavy on back row, then Lancer is a dud, and if the monster you want to get rid of has targeting protection, Champion's not the answer you want. Which leaves the deck in an odd place, because now it lacks a strong boss monster to rally behind, leaving them to be picked apart and integrated into all kinds of other decks. Just goes to show that if you're not the top pick, then much like these cards' effects, you're getting bottomed. Quick aside here, but I think it's important to point out that Igknights are notorious for being enablers for some heinous FTKs. Not only do they allow for a swarm of material you could leverage to get access to a number of utility extra deck monsters, the pool of Fire Warrior monsters you can search that help you get into Isolde, another prominent enabler on the edge of banning, has just gotten better and better over the years. In fact, while making this very video, YCS Indy had a huge upset when Jeff Leonard, Yu-Gi-Oh's favorite dad, won a feature match using an Igknight core in a Draco Slayer Exodia FTK, and spoilers, he used Ignis Phoenix. Truly, things are on a whole other level at the top of the mountain, so it's time to make our way there. Through temperate climate and modest underbrush, I will climb hand over foot to reach what I've been searching for. The path may be tiresome, maybe even moderately cumbersome, but a true duelist never gives up, because it's only at the peak that you can find your true prize. Be it victory or a delicious pile of snacks, the true reward is the—
Zane?
What?
Don't you want to come inside and do the Tokyo Treat box? What are you doing out in the middle of the sidewalk?
Nothing.
And you can get some of that tasty goodness by using today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. You may not have any mountains around you to test your climbing caliber, but your taste buds sure will. That's because this month's Tokyo Treat box is themed after food that can be found around the famous Mount Fuji. It's got some great snacks like this green tea sponge cake, which is off the charts, sandwich cookies made to look like the famous mountain itself, sweet potato cookies which are mixed with a sesame flavor, and it's weird how well those two go together, and very appropriately for the Igknight episode, some spicy wasabi potato chips.
Oh, no, it hits immediately. It's so spicy.
As for Sakura Co., this month's offerings come from Saitama City. Yeah, get your One Punch Man references out of the way. The contents of this box aren't quite as over the top as our Cape Baldi. Saitama has delicious signature pairs that have been rendered into flavorful gummies that you just have to try, as well as milk castella cakes. They're like little donut holes that are somehow even fluffier. There's curry senbei, which are little rice crackers that are crackling with flavor. This combo works out really well. And daifuku, probably the best thing in this box. It's a little mochi orb coated in powdered sugar that has a filling of sweet red bean paste. And I know, sweet and bean do not sound like they should go together, but trust me, you let the food lead the way, and you're going to enjoy the trip. Sakura Co. boxes also come with 2 very special items. One is a tea pairing that goes very well with the snacks. You've got Chopon Sayama this month, a fantastic green tea. And the second item is the special tableware that comes with each box. This time around, we have the Wasaka Crane Chopsticks. Artfully crafted, sublime and tasteful, you'll look like a true connoisseur of the candied arts with these on hand. Also, while the history here is old, I found out that Saitama City is actually fairly new, being a combination of 4 smaller cities, leading to Saitama's rich cultural diversity. And I know that because of the handy booklet that comes with every box, no matter which one you get, that comes with great insights into the area or themes the box is about, as well as information about the food itself, both culturally and its ingredients, including any allergens for safe snacking.
And if you'd like one of these delicious snack boxes, make sure to go down to the pinned comment or the description, use my link, and if this is your first box, you can use my code to get
$5
off of that box. It's delicious, incredible, educational, and you won't regret it.
Alright, that's all the Igknight monsters. Now it's time for the spells and traps. Igknight Reload is a quick play spell card that has you revealing any number of pendulum monsters from your hand and shuffling them back into the deck, then drawing an equal number of cards as shuffled back into the deck, +1. But for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you can't draw cards by card effects. So this is more of a generic pendulum support card, but does have a function for us that we'll be getting into with a later card. It does solve the issue of magical mallet type cards, namely, they usually draw you the amount of cards you put back into your deck, but since you spend a spell card to activate it, you're actually going -1. Reload fixes that by tacking on a +1. This makes it a proper mulligan, but that's kind of the problem. A, because it shuffles the cards into the deck, not places them on the bottom of your deck, you're at risk of drawing those cards again, unlike Runic Fountain, which is a way better draw engine. Second, as a mulligan, it's not necessarily guaranteed to get you out of a bad situation. At best, it puts bricks back into your deck, but only if those bricks are pendulum cards. And with the game going as fast as it does, we can't really afford the redundant draws. You could say it's a bit of a time crisis. Yeah, big shout out to all my arcade shooter fans out there for hanging on to that stretch of a reference. Igknights Unite is a quick play spell card that targets an Igknight card you control, destroys it, and if you do, special summons an Igknight monster from your deck. This is another easy way to get out Lancer and Champion, which is nice if you're even playing them at all. The more likely scenario is that you're swapping one Igknight for one of a different level to make your extra deck plays line up better while filling up your face-up extra deck. But there is another option. When you activate Igknight Reload, you can chain Unite, targeting the reload. And now it's like you got an Igknight for nothing. It almost feels like you're getting away with something you shouldn't, like you're breaking the rules of the game. And your friends. Though, try not to actually do that. You wouldn't want anyone accusing you of having a bad aim, would you? Ignition Phoenix is a field spell card that grants all Igknight monsters on the field a 300 attack and defense boost. Once per turn, you can target an Igknight card you control, destroy it, and if you do, add an Igknight card from your deck to your hand. This is a phenomenal addition to the deck, searching all of your on-theme cards, including Reload and Unite. It fills up your extra deck if you pop monsters, and makes them a little more fearsome in battle. However, it did begin the trend of making it so the field spells did not have the Archetypes name in it. So if you're upset that your favorite field spell is a little tough to get a hold of, this is the one that started it all. However, I can forgive it this time because the name does sound like what happens when you boot up a game of Ace Attorney, and that feels just right to me. Igknight Burst is a continuous trap card, and once per turn, during your main phase, you can destroy up to 3 other Igknight cards you control, then return an equal number of cards your opponent controls to the hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a face-up Igknight Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Oh, this card is rough. It's a trap card, but only works during your main phase. And while it comes with a great rate on removal, it doesn't come with the flexibility you'd hope for in a card that takes a full turn cycle to actually get online. It's nice that we've got a recycling effect tacked on here, but for a card with a powerful name and some great art, Burst isn't exactly exploding onto the scene. Alright, so that's all the Igknight cards, but what do we do with them? Well, like I said, our boss monsters are pretty lame, which leaves us with a bunch of normal monsters that we could use for a lot of different decks. If we wanted to play pure, a strange idea but I'll go with it, we'll need cards that facilitate a normal monster beatdown that incorporates warrior and fire synergies. So what can we play to help them out? First up, we have to bring Luster Pendulum into the mix. It, plus any of our level 4 Igknights, makes Ignister Prominence the blasting Draco Slayer, still one of arguably the best synchro monsters ever printed. It gets another Draco Slayer out of your deck, and now you just so happen to have one that is also an Igknight, and is a non-targeting shuffle that pops one of your Pendulum cards. And if you pop Ignis Phoenix, that can summon your Lancer or Champion, and now you're off to the races. Though, if you don't want to run Luster Pendulum, Ignis Phoenix's effect does turn the card it summons into a tuner, so you can access Ignister Prominence without it, as well as the rest of the Synchro pool, since, as far as Synchros are concerned, Luster can only be used for Draco Slayer ones. Unexpected Die pulls our lower leveled Igknights out of our deck, and the more free monsters we can field before a Pendulum summon, the better. Because of this, Link Spider is going to be a valuable tool in mobilizing your monsters and slowly getting those Link arrows. Though if you instead first normal summon another Pendulum next to the Die's summoned one, that's all the material you need for Beyond the Pendulum. Just be careful with that on summon effect because, as it turns out, our Pendulum effects are the only ones we have, so there's a lot on the line. And a perfect way to exceed that play is by climbing up into Exceed the Pendulum after that. As for other pieces of normal support, Summoner's Art can act as more copies of your high-leveled Igknights, helping you to get them into rotation for powerful rank 5 and 6 plays. Painful Decision can likewise get you your lower-leveled Igknights while loading up some into your grave, which may seem counterintuitive in a Pendulum deck, but don't worry, that's what Exceed the Pendulum is for. How about Warrior Support? Like I mentioned previously, Isolde is an all-time great, getting you any Igknight while also letting you summon another from the deck if you send enough equipped spells from there to the grave. And speaking of equipped spells, we have a very special Fire Warrior we can search out with our Igknight Pendulum effects. Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. It's a big monster that's easy to summon, has great stats, and comes with its own negate. Not a bad boss. But really, the entire Fire Warrior pool is gonna love you. And by the whole pool, I mean almost exclusively Infernobles and Battling Boxers. Though there's also an argument for teching them in with Rescue Ace, since Lifter, Impulse, and Monitor are all searchable, and can even be Pendulum summoned to save you your normal. As for a silly tech pick, it's gotta be Heart of the Underdog. With a critical mass of normal monsters, you can fill your grip with a ton of Igknights, cycling through your deck while finding more Igknights or extenders like Fireflint Lady, so you can build up a devastating phalanx. Alright, that's all my thoughts on Igknights, but how do they stack up against the Nova scale? Novelty. Pendulum, from the start, was touted as a mechanic that would help just about every other summoning method, and getting back Synchro, Fusion, and Tribute material was pretty nice, when you could get the scales to work. But Igknights represented the first, if rudimentary step, towards what a deck powered solely by Pendulum cards could do and what its game plan would look like. And from that point forward, destroying Pendulum cards to trigger their effect, only for you to have them swing into action later, became the mechanic's calling card. So this is an easy 5 in novelty from me. Objectivity. With Pendulum no longer allowing you to summon 5 monsters right out of the extra deck so easily every turn, this potential resource factory has slowed production to a reasonable pace. While the tools for Pendulum summoning to work under Master Rule 4 have never been better, Igknights still represent about the fairest of the traditional Pendulum themes in terms of playstyle, so we're awarding another 5 in objectivity. Versatility. Igknight's various levels make them great for Xyz summoning, have the opportunity to make some powerful links, and with the introduction of Ignis Phoenix, can even Synchro summon. And while their scales are no longer the best, they are still very substantial, and because of their ability to work with any Fire Warrior deck, they can be splashed in pretty effectively in those themes. It may not be every deck's cup of tea, you do have to commit quite a bit of deck space to splash them in effectively, but it's got more than enough to get it a 3 in versatility. Awesomeness. However, despite their utility, cycling through their scales is really all they do. They probably have the goofiest story out of the entire Draco Slayer storyline, but that's about the only thing I really care about them. Oh, and the rad-looking gun armor. So sadly, I've got to give Igknights a 2 on awesomeness, meaning this theme is getting a respectable 15 out of 20 on the Nova scale. And that's all I have to say about Igknights. They're a little more than an engine other decks use to accrue advantage, but for what they do, there's no better option. So next time you just need to summon a trained, powerful, clumsy, and klutzy crew, this should be your go-to group to enable your favorite deck and ignite your passions. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Igknights a light that burns twice as bright, or are they just burning out twice as quick? And which one's your favorite? I'm not gonna lie, Champion's launcher looks super sick, but I've got to give it up for Templar. Their posing is great. Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like the video, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. If you want yourself a box of delicious Japanese snacks delivered right to your doorstep, make sure to use my link in the description or pinned comment and use my code GOLDEN in checkout for $5 off your first box. Today's episode is also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including the illustrious Quasar Commanders, Frankie and Drake and SpongeBob be like you used to call me on your cell phone, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Andrew Newman, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Danny Bound, Dark Dragon X830, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker, Garland Chaos, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Green Knight, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Hydrocraft 135, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Picata, Mega Combi, Millennia Asta, Molly Renata, Nathan Vig, Natiel Lee Alexander, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Sir Knight JCB, Skybuster Leo, The Wizard Moose, URTV 667 and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Almento 5010, A Random Pup, Ariel Kersey, Beluga Masta, Blue Gem, Chaz Ghost, Corbinisms, Drachenwald, Dripfed Tar, Eki Bullock, Emony, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Inblink, Jester Designs, Kale the Dragon, Carp, Kendall Wishmeyer, Kevon Public, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lemon Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, Michael Shimabukuro, Nitromo, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, Taylor Seymour, The Legendary Raven, Tucker Ordorn, Venusian Teapot, and Zaldreka, as well as the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my quest to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, watch my videos early, participate in monthly custom card reviews, and be a part of these credits, I'd very much appreciate it if you checked out my link in the description and considered joining, as every pledge helps make the channel that much better and helps make all this a little more stable.